Karthik, can't hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? I can't hear you, Karthik. Let me restart.
Yeah, Vinod, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent. Hey guys, welcome to another session of Freewheeling Fridays. We have very interesting events that has happened in the past 1 week. Really looking forward to discussing all those things with you guys. If you have any comment, feel free to type in. We are right now live on Twitter as well as on YouTube. Don't forget to follow us on at Java Capital. Um, so, Vinod, having said that, why don't we just do a quick round of introductions?
Introduction about us again, Karthik?
Yeah,
I thought it's freewheeling, so I don't want to introduce, man.
you don't want. Okay, so Vinod doesn't want to introduce, so just go and look Vinod up on Twitter. How about that, Vinod?
Yeah. My Twitter handle is underscore Vinod underscore Shankar. Or you look at Java Capital's Twitter handle, you'll find my Twitter handle. Yeah.
Awesome. So you can follow Vinod at Vinod underscore Shankar, and like Vinod said, he doesn't want to introduce himself, but this is what we have to work with every week, man. So tough, so tough. But let's just start with a milestone, right? For Java,
Yeah.
there's a milestone that we reached this week.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? What is that milestone?
I think it's been like 100 days since we launched Java officially, and I think it's been yay, that's like a fun ride so far. I hope KP also thinks the same. What do you think, KP?
It's been super fun, no doubt about it. Very exciting, very scary, and very exciting at the same time. Scary because I have to work with Vinod every day. Exciting because he gets to work with me. Uh, no, but I think it's been really exciting because we have always wanted to do this. I think the most important thing to do is to take that first step, right? Which we did in March, and I remember all those conversations, the lunches that I have to lure Vinod with. So finally, now that we are able to do this, it's really nice, and we just done our 100-day anniversary, and more importantly, I think we've seen quite a few number of startups looking to raise funding in the early stage. Um, I think it's just telling how resilient our startup ecosystem has been, despite some once in a century kind of events happening, right? So nobody knew how bad the situation was going to be, but I think kudos to a lot of startups who are able to survive this, not only survive but also figure out ways, innovative ways to thrive in this environment. So,
Absolutely.
how many startups do you think we may have looked at in the past 100 days or so?
I think from the tracking, at least there are at least 180 startups, if my numbers are right. Give or take, this side, that side. I think you'd have easily looked at close to 200 startups in the 3 months that since we started.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that sounds about right, right? So we were looking at a bunch of startups in various areas, right? Not to mention, obviously, edtech, which is really, really exciting at the moment because of the situation that we are in. We'll have to see how many of these new models that are coming up will eventually end up sticking. But that's happening. But also, not only just edtech, right? There are a bunch of things happening on the other end of the spectrum, right, where entertainment is concerned. With the ban of TikTok in India, also in the US, the impact it is having on the ecosystem here. So this is going to be a very interesting, sort of a few months that we've had. Um, the other thing that I just wanted to bring up, is the funding. The V-shaped recovery or the U-shaped recovery of the funding in startups, right? And to talk a little bit more about that, I have a special guest with me who just signed in.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, this is
Hola, Paras.
a surprise guest. Hey, Paras. Hi, Gaby. Hi, Vinod. How are you? All
Hey,
good.
great to have you here, man. We're doing very good. So we're just talking a little bit about how we finished. We reached a milestone with 100 days of Java Capital,
Oh, wow. Congrats.
and the number of startups we were looking at. Just said that we looked at least 180 startups, right?
Wow.
That's a little staggering, when you think about it, right? And I think we're also happy that we were able to make quite a bit of progress with some of those startups. You'll soon hear about some of the investments that we have already made, or those which are in the final stages of the investment.
Correct.
So very exciting time, obviously, for us. Also, a very interesting time for startups in general, right? We're
Yeah.
looking at the whole situation with COVID and whatnot, and we just started talking about the funding recovery, if you will, right? Uh,
Correct.
and Paris, let me also take a moment to introduce you, right? Paris, we have Paris here. Paris was earlier with Let's Venture. He was one of the key founding team members at Let's Venture for almost 6 years that he's been there at LV, and he just he turned positive, sadly, but not COVID positive. It's entrepreneur positive. So all the rubbing off with all the founders over the last 6 years, has finally caught up on with Paras, and he's starting up. He's not delving into the details just yet. So Paras, keep us in mind as you go ahead with this journey. So I'm shamelessly selling out.
Yeah, we get first dibs, Karthik, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
Exactly. So great, man. Paris, what do you think of what's happening with the funding, man? Is it a V-shaped recovery? Is it recovering? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I think there are two aspects to it. One is the sectors that are seeing positive or seeing a jump because of COVID. Especially education is all over the news nowadays. In some aspects, SaaS, and then the neo banks, because people are unable to bank, and banking operations are also suffered a bit. So all of those sectors, and healthcare testing, etc. So those sectors, if you look at that, and second is the kind of capital we are already sitting with, what kind of funds we have raised, and the time horizons of these funds. So India almost still has $4 billion of raised capital. Uh, so hence, the horizons are very different. It's more like, 10-year plus horizon, or at least some of them have, 5 to 10 year horizons. And that makes it a lot more different than the normal, uh, capital markets. On the other hand, it all depends upon, the return of the COVID, in phase two, or nobody knows that in India, especially with the numbers, and then the kind of impact that is on the economy.
Yeah.
So if the demand slows, everything sort of is hit, and whatever is V-shaped might turn to be a U again. We don't know about that.
Mm.
So I think these are the aspects everybody is figuring out.
Right.
But one thing is for sure, some of the consumer habits have definitely changed, for better,
Yeah.
towards more e-commerce, more online,
Right.
and that is
Data
definitely
consumption has gone up significantly in the past few months. But Paras, let me just take a quick second and ask people who are listening or watching us right now if you have any questions for any of us, or if you want to share a comment or share your view, just type in on Periscope, or we're also on YouTube right now, so you can do it there. So Paras, just I was reading a report the other day on the how badly this has impacted the investments, right?
right.
It looks like the investment rounds in the sub 5 million category, right? It looks like they've gone down by as much as 50%. You know,
Wow.
that's massive, right? I mean, you look at 240 deals this year in the first half
Right.
compared to last year, right? Which is crazy,
Yeah.
Is that why do you think early stage got impacted more, but late stage seems to be, or growth in late stage seemed to be a little bit weathering this storm slightly better?
Yeah, because the portfolios of the larger funds, who have raised capital, uh, that's the best bet those people have, given the times. So they don't want them to die easily. So there might be some correction there, but most of the people would want to uh, curtail some of the costs and keep that runway going or increasing. Uh, so that is one reason you won't see a lot of uh, post Series A deals getting slower, because those are already too much vetted. Those are for long terms. Those are the best bets those particular funds have over the next decade.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the early stage, is much more, uncertain. And
Mm.
it's primarily, 18 to 24 months down the horizon, which an investment happens for.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
during uncertain times, since these are the funnel to the next funds, and if fund starts slowing down that bucket of investments,
Yeah.
everybody's hit, and that definitely has happened. I'm sure you would have also seen that some of the funds, withdrew the term sheets, which was a bit unfortunate for the founders. But it had already started happening, in April itself. So hence, there was a correction which primarily had to, show it in the numbers itself.
Yeah, and I think there's another factor also here, right? Like last year, by the end of last year, I think the dry powder with VCs in our ecosystem, it reached a peak of $7 billion, I think,
Right.
which is a lot, and now that this has happened, a lot of investors, hunkered down, slowed their investments. I think something tells me that this is going to come back with a vengeance, right? All of this will supercharge in the next few months, or maybe in a year's time. I think we will recover. Vinod, any thoughts there?
I think like Paras initially mentioned, right? Cycles are long for VCs, right?
Yeah.
If this is a, let's say, a 1 year blip or a downtrend or an uptrend, we don't know this clearly yet, right? So I think it's not going to be a large impact. Maybe funds will increase their cycles by another year, take approvals for another year, another maybe 2 years. I think that's like practically possible. Extensions of the funds that I expect to kind of happen. But I also, right, the other conundrum that I'm seeing, Karthik, is like there are you're talking about positive, right? Paras being an entrepreneur
Mhm.
positive, right? Every portfolio, right? Because it's a portfolio, there have been like very, very positive tailwind companies in each VC's portfolio, which is
Yeah,
like, taken off. What should have taken a couple of years is taken off in months.
right.
And the flip side is, some of them have consolidated and some of them will be acquired and some of them will, close, shut down.
Mhm.
So I just get this feeling that, if this game is a power law game about winners, right? And imagine if the COVID could have given you one winner. I mean, it's okay if you had lost three companies, technically, if you ask me,
Correct,
from a
correct.
portfolio bet point of view, right? So
Yeah.
if COVID is actually anything else, I think it should have been positive if you ask me for a VC, if they have had the tailwind company in their portfolio. So imagine if somebody had an Unacademy, or imagine if somebody had a White Hat Junior, or imagine if somebody's had all the edtech companies, man.
Yeah,
That's
Vedanta.
yeah, our telemedicine companies, be it M-Fine, X number of so all of these would have got the tailwind. So maybe what could have not happened as a winner in the next couple of years. Maybe all of them emerged as winners. And going by power law, truly believing that's the ideal thing that's working in the VC space, I think all of them should be very happy if you ask me.
Right, right. And Paras, you obviously picked a very interesting time to, toy with entrepreneurship, right? Um, so did the COVID thing really hang heavy on your thought process at all?
Yeah, actually, it was one of the filters. The most important aspect is when times are crazy, or growth is good always. Uh, what happens is the consumer doesn't know that what is a painkiller or what is a vitamin. That
Right.
sort of definition. You start buying everything. In these times, what is very important. Generally, if you want to really build a large scale company, you want to nail down that particular problem, and those problems start getting highlighted, a bit more. So with that thought in mind, and it anyways, world is not going, uh, uh, too up, or too down in these times. I mean, it's some of it is positive, some of it is negative, but overall, it's still a bit stable. So, so with that in mind, I was like, if people are scary, I should be greedy, as they say. So I got greedy.
So, Paras, I was surprised, a little bit. I wouldn't say too much, but when you jump to do entrepreneurship, right, after having spent years in doing pre-seed and seed stage and angel investments, right?
Right.
Is it more lucrative to be a founder or to be an investor? Having both the lenses right now, right? What would you think?
So I think it depends what you want to do. If you love solving problem, early stage investment in India, itself was a very big problem. I mean, probably not, big market at that time, but it is panning out to be, a decent sized market now. It will take some time to be a very big market, obviously. But that problem was very interesting because, it was a network and a community problem. So that is what kept me stuck to the problem along with Let's Venture. Uh, but it was always there to solve a particular problem. And I think the way we are developing web, or web is getting templatized, in terms of low code or no code platforms. So that is the area I'm exploring right now. So that attracted me a lot, plus this kind of time, uh, so I thought that is the best to jump, and that's what I love doing, solving good problems, which I feel I'm passionate about. So I think it's more personal rather than opportunistic, in that sense.
Great, huh?
Okay, if you guys are just joining us, please feel free to ask questions or comment. We're live on Periscope and YouTube. We have a special guest with us, Paris, from previously Let's Venture and now at a stealth startup. He's a founder now. And I also have our third partner, Bhargavi, with us. Hey, Bhargavi. Okay, so Paris, I think look, this has been obviously, a very interesting time for you, right? Um, any thoughts on how the co-founder thing is coming up for you? Are you building a team, whatnot, right?
Right. So, so actually, I'm still in the market validation stage. I'm, sticking where the waters are deep and, trying to find that out and some of the behavior patterns. Given that, no code, low code is still, very early, in the market itself.
Yeah,
And where that market is it in education? Is it in support? Is it in a new tool in low code or in no code segment? If yes, for which segment? Yes, I'm trying to dig deeper into the market there. So yeah, working in the trenches and trying to find that out along with the users.
So,
Uh,
yeah. Sorry, Paras. I mean, this no code thing, right? I mean, I've been following this trend. Ryan Hoover, you know, I think his investing thesis is on no code, and there's a bunch of other VCs in the valley who are talking in the no code VC, for example. And I just want to invest in tools which are no code.
right.
Is this a new thing, or it's been existed for long, right? At some level, I keep thinking, right? If
Yeah.
some people talk of Shopify, right? Shopify was your no-code e-commerce
Yes.
platform, right?
Yes.
Is it that we are excited now because something's happening? What's causing this excitement? I've not been able to understand the reason for the excitement at some level, and seeing the root cause.
Right.
One of the investments that we are talking also is no code kind of an investment
Yeah.
that we did,
Yeah.
right? We're doing, as Karthik spoke about. What is the real excitement? I'm not able to tap into it, especially in India at least, right? Maybe in the
Yeah.
US it seems very relevant, but not sure. What does it mean in India actually?
Yeah, so I'm also not very pertinent or building it pertinently to India. But I think the excitement is more about the trend of adoption and the large market. So the trend is that US e-commerce adoption shifted from 15 to 35% during last 4 months. So as they say, whatever doesn't happen in decades sometimes just happens in a few days. And with that adoption, a lot of and you will see products like Loom, Integromat, Zapier finding a lot of adoption suddenly, and Zoom, etc. has been there for longer. So no code. I think it's just the term that is exciting people, but essentially the whole point is, the underlying layer is the adoption, and with that adoption, what is changing? You will see Gumroad, uh, getting hot recently. It's not that they were not there earlier, right? So similarly, payments around no-code platforms. How to integrate with a WordPress plugin. For example, WordPress has been around. That is also no-code,
Yeah.
right? And similarly, if you see today, Instamojo is trying to build, its own, uh, uh, plug and play. Google has never built a plugin for somebody. They built a WordPress plugin so that you can easily, build your websites. Uh, so it's more around, what you can do if web gets templatized. Personally, I was creating some web apps and I found some of the tools which when I used in 2016 were still not there, 2016, 17. Uh, and they have basically, if you're trying to build web app or mobile app, you have three things. You have a database, you have a front end, you have a back end, right? So the front end and back end, was still solved. The database problem was being solved through either Airtable, or some other kind of tools, or say, Google Sheets. But when you combine all three together and they start working, then basically you are saying that the server side is has started assisting you, and that change has started coming now with some of the tools like Bubble, which gives a lot of confidence that you need not delve into 3 4 tools now to make something. So you can make even complex web apps. So the cycle times of development gets reduced, and probably there are two segments which come into play. One is the developer segment, which generally starts using it very fast, or there is a new segment. So there was a designer. So I was talking to some IT companies which have, bench strength from 15 to 50. And they were like, if my designer learns it, I don't need developers. Right. So because I don't have any projects now, I have high developer salaries. The foreign projects, pipeline is slower or small. And that's what made me excited that probably it's something is shifting right now. These people have started using Glide apps. They were never even looking for these kind of tools earlier, right? So when the makers start shifting to new tools, which means there is some change of adoption which is happening. And I think that delta is of adoption is a bit higher now, so which is what makes it a bit more exciting.
Great. I think that's interesting. I think we will also watch out, keep an eye. I think it's an interesting trend to look out for.
Yeah.
Hey, Paras, I know you have to go, man. Thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Sharing your views on some of the things that have been happening in our ecosystem this week. Would love to have you on again sometime again in the future, Paras.
Thanks.
After we fund him, Karthik,
After we,
yeah.
Thanks, thank you.
Thanks, Paras. Great to have you.
Take care. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Hi, Bhargavi. Welcome back.
I hope internet holds up now for longer time.
Yes. I think we should task one of the entrepreneurs to fix the internet issue, man. This is like the biggest issue now, right? Everybody in the world, I don't know, maybe in the world, but definitely here in Bangalore, everybody is facing this issue.
Yeah. So what are we
Bhargavi,
now?
before you joined, we were discussing, the recovery in the investments, right? Especially in the early stage, the slump, and then the subsequent recovery. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was telling somebody shared that article with me. I was saying I personally think it's more active now. Angels have become active probably. Early stage syndicates have become more active probably because the deals which we would not have got otherwise is coming to pre-seed and seed stage investors as well. That's also probably one of the reasons. So I think that's why the idea is much more now, at least as I see it. In terms of angel syndicates and seed stage, still not instant. I think they are probably still holding up before they start making investments. So yeah, good for us.
Yeah, Bhargavi basically saying we got lucky, Karthik. Make
with our investment.
Yeah, when the sun shines, before the big
Yeah,
fishes come.
if you guys, yeah, we had a chat, right? Should we really launch Java Capital when all this lockdown came and pandemic just hit all of us, right? And then anyway went ahead. I think that worked well for us, and whoever is viewing, stay tuned. Some exciting announcements are going to come from our end, but yeah, I think it helped us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, look, one of the things that didn't really make news, right, is about the valuations. I know there are here and there have been few reports on how the valuations have been renegotiated for some of the deals. But vastly, what do you think? Do you think the valuations have pretty much held up despite the crisis in the stage of early stage, if you will?
I think from founders side, they want same valuation or more valuation maybe. But I think per se, I personally don't think valuations have been put under pressure. People are still getting probably the right valuation they should get.
So, Karthik, to ask you, right? Like, I think there's also been question the difference between Series A, B kind of drying up because of lack of Chinese investors. They were like super active, right?
Yeah.
Now what's going to happen? Who's going to fill this gap which the Chinese have left? If everybody's filling other gaps, this gap means it's an impact for what do you think is going to kind of pan out? Who's going to come in, or what's going to happen in that space?
Yeah, I think, look, this looks like deja vu, right? I mean, go back to 2015, 2014, or 2016. There is that mid growth stage gap for a lot of Indian startups. Between SoftBank and between the Series A, B investors in India, there is a huge gap, right? It's a little scary, to imagine that gap coming up again. But suffice it to say, I think in the past few years, right, what we have seen an encouraging trend is that a lot of domestic growth stage funds have also come up, right? I don't think they'll necessarily absorb the entire gap that is being created by the, if you will, the flight of the Chinese investors. We're seeing early signs that some of the US investors are getting a little bit more active. So we'll see some of the slack being picked up by them. And lately, I think Japanese investors are also taking note, especially in the growth stage. So we'll see a little bit coming from that. And we've already seen Korean investors taking quite a bit of interest in the market, right? So these are all, a lot of things are going well for the market even before COVID. And I think opportunities are abound, and we'll hopefully not see the repeat of those years where there is mid-stage gap.
Yeah. Right.
Great. So, guys, I want to switch to the next topic that is been on my mind. Right? It's TikTok, man. What's happening? It's like Russian roulette, right? I mean, who's gonna finally bite the bullet?
I think you can start a separate podcast on just TikTok, and you can call it TikTok Talks or something, Karthik, if you really want. Or you can start a separate blog on just TikTok. Everything is monetizable on TikTok at this stage, right? I mean, because there's so much buzz, so much news. And a lot of people also, right, have been like super unhappy about, I wouldn't say super unhappy, let's say they're not very happy with the replacements that they've got for TikTok, both in India or even especially in India, right, because it's completely banned and people are not really happy, right? They just feel like something is missing from what they were doing over the last couple of years. It's like a habit. Imagine you were spending an hour, half an hour, sometimes even longer, and now you're taking that away. Imagine it is for me like, if somebody bans Twitter in India, right, I would be like, what's happening, right? Like, it's the same thing happening to vernacular or a different kind of an audience. So I think all of them are just not telling it because you don't want to appear to be not nationalistic or whatever, but they're all looking to see, when can this kind of come back? And all the news that we're hearing seems to be like, it might actually come back in all parts of the country, but not through the Chinese hands. Through other hands, you're going to be, given access. Looks like, at least that's my view. At least, you're likely to get access back.
Yeah, and Vinod, there is one report that I read, I think this morning or maybe yesterday, where the Indian unit of TikTok, right, has been priced at $3 billion. We're just talking about the Indian one, right? And that Reliance is in talks to acquire the Indian business of TikTok. I think it's interesting, right? I mean, do you think that reflects the true valuation of the company?
$1 billion question, or let's say $3 billion.
Yeah,
question, right?
yeah. Is it a discounted price given all the things?
Difficult to guess, Karthik, but if you look at Indian companies at similar valuations, right, what is that somebody's paying TikTok for now, right, is like, for at least from a Jio's point of view, I think they they have massive data pipes. How do you monetize that? You need an ad engine eventually on top of it. Google has an ad engine, Facebook has an ad engine. Obviously, Reliance doesn't have an ad engine yet. right? TikTok could be that ad engine, which could give them that place, along with Facebook and Google.
Yeah.
Uh,
So when you think about it, right, like Geo has these amazing platforms that are hugely successful, but none of their apps, found a similar type of success, right? Uh, this could be like a shot in arm for Geo.
Yes, yes. So you also rightly said, right? I mean, has Reliance executed B2C play extremely well on the tech side so far? Don't know the answer, right? So
Yeah.
it'll be a test case. What do they do with TikTok? I mean, imagine Microsoft acquiring US TikTok, if that's the
Mhm.
news, which people are still saying, a technology company may not still be able to do justice, is what is the news, right? If Microsoft wants to acquire. So imagine we're talking about, a company which became, or, is trying to become a tech company in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
To play that same game, right? That's the only question. It's not like impossible, but I'm just saying, question marks on, is that what is the strength and capability of Reliance for this, right?
Right. Right. And guys, if you're just joining us, any questions, any comments, feel free to type in. We'll take them. We are live right now on YouTube and also on Twitter through Periscope. Um, so we're just discussing about the situation with TikTok and the potential suitors for TikTok. Um, Vinod, anything else? Bhargavi, you want to add anything else to what's happening with the TikTok situation?
Do you want to add? We heard from Vinod. I don't have anything much.
Yeah, great.
What
I
about
mean,
you?
look,
Yeah,
no, I think this is going to be interesting, right? A lot of startups, popped up, secured a lot of users. We keep hitting a bunch of metrics that some of the apps have, reached 60 million monthly active users and so on and so forth. What happens to these apps if and when TikTok comes back? Are they going to abandon them and go back to TikTok, right? I mean,
very
all things said
interesting.
and done, I think, yeah, all things said and done, it's they've actually, TikTok has managed to crack that space, right? And the seamless experience that people have with that app is, even though it looks like something that can be easily reproduced, the it's very very hard, to reproduce, and
And
I
that
think,
is the answer to your valuation question.
yeah, exactly, right. But the question is, is $3 billion more or less? That was more of the question. There is no doubt that it should be somewhere in some billions, right? Uh, but having said that, I think the part of the challenge for the Indian lookalikes, right, of TikTok is the stage that these companies are in, right, and also from a founder point of view, the experience and the depth that the founding team also has could matter, right, to be able to scale that quickly, right? We're talking about scaling in a matter of what, like days and weeks, right? Not even months and years. So it presents with its own challenges, and I think the team should have enough depth and maturity to handle that kind of breakneck speed as well. I do think that some of the startups in that space have a better chance of surviving than others, because they're not exactly copies of TikToks. Right? There is a variation on that. There are short video apps, but there's still variation. So I think those will end up surviving and maybe even thrive, right, in the post COVID world. When this whole issue with TikTok also resolves at some point of
I
time.
think if TikTok is
But
running on.
something which I have always asked is, how much time do I have as a consumer, right? For example, if you take, when I started using Insta, for example, then I stopped using Facebook completely, even the little I was using, logging in, right? Because you only have X amount of time and you keep replacing things. So while there may be other interesting products, but as a consumer, it's like how much time do you have to be engaged in many of the platforms?
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, right? I think the other layer that I wanted to add on top of that is just look at where Twitter is. Twitter pretty much plateaued at what 35 million users, right? So it's struggling to go beyond that English speaking audience and appeal to the masses of India, right? So that is another layer. So if you have a bunch of platforms, bunch of vernacular platforms, where are you going to spend your time on? Do incumbents like Twitter, could come up with something that could appeal to this segment. Yeah, it's just staggering. I mean, it's very exciting.
Also, Karthik, I see on TikTok, right? I think we are underestimating people who actually built it, right? Their understanding on the nuance of how it works for the Indian audience is like unseen, right? So if you transfer something, let's call it an adopted kid, right? I mean, you're not going to get the mother's love in some sense, right? So that's going to be the biggest challenge for anybody who acquires it, be it Microsoft in the US or Reliance Jio in India, right? I see that's the biggest challenge. You can buy it, but you still will not be able to sustain it, because the original thinking on the product and how it behaves, right, is not going to be fully translated, in the long run. So that is another challenge, right? It's like you may buy it, but it may not grow as fast, or, it may not accrue a large value if you don't build it the way it was supposed to kind of hold up. So that's another fear, you pay for a very high value and maybe you don't get the full benefits of it if you don't kind of nurture it really well. Mm-hmm. So that 3 billion is like a very hard question to answer. That's why.
Yeah. Great. So let me just switch gears a little bit. So one thing that I wanted to bring up is Flipkart Leap. It's a new initiative by Flipkart. I think it's a welcome move by them. They also have a corporate venture capital as well. So this could be in addition to that. So very interesting development. Any thoughts on that?
Before we start discussing, I just want to do a recap for people who joined us just now. And so I think we discussed about the funding in early stages, especially after the pandemic set in. And we also had a guest. And we discussed briefly about TikTok. Whoever is joining us just now, please catch those things in the recording in our Twitter handle. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and you can add your comments. Feel free to jump in with your comments and questions as well. Yeah. So we're just talking about Flipkart's Leap program. It's a 16-week mentorship program, and then companies get a grant of $25,000. This is not an equity transaction, right? It's a grant of $25,000. So this is rather interesting, right? I mean, have you seen many accelerators or incubators in our ecosystem with coming up with grants?
Yeah, I think NetApp does. NetApps is a grant. But of course, catering to a very different market, right? In terms of that, that is one name with Strike. But Flipkart was, frankly, I expected Flipkart to come up with something at some point in time because Amazon globally does it, right? And the amount of PR which happened during Amazon's SMB days or sort of that time was also quite, it was high decibel PR sort of, right? So it was I think it's a great move by Flipkart, very important if they want to establish themselves as equal player to Amazon in India. And grant is a very interesting thing because I don't think even Amazon does it globally. They do have a program where you do Amazon exclusive brands, and then once it reaches a certain size, they buy it out from you for a standard amount, right? That's what we have heard. So this is very interesting in that way.
But Bhargavi, you took the example of NetApp, right? It's a fairly successful program in our ecosystem, right? Any data to suggest if grants, tend to produce better startups versus, let's just say, an accelerator taking an equity or something like that?
It's all about the intent, right? Even if accelerator takes equity, but if a startup does not see value from that, they may be giving you 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, take 2%, 3% equity.
Yeah.
Um, uh, if how much of value do they provide beyond just giving this money also plays a major role, right?
Hmm.
So that is one aspect of looking at it. From Flipkart's aspect, I think it is less nuisance for them, because if they keep taking equity from many companies, it actually becomes very difficult to handle from a company side, corporate side. That's why we see so many accelerators or so many incubators related to education institutions preferring grant way and not taking equity route. Apart from, of course, the non-profit side and all those things, but this is mainly one of the things, right? What are you going to do by keeping this equity or keeping a large portfolio of company and equity interest in that? Um, uh, but coming to the exact grant amount per se, right?
Yeah.
Looking at FMCG D2C or new age brands, I think it's a very, very positive amount, because it's neither too less nor too high.
Mm,
And
mm,
even
mm.
in our experience, when we have evaluate very early stage D2C companies, right? Many a times what we tell them, we say, why don't you go raise 50 lakhs to 70 lakhs initially
Correct.
to kickstart everything, no? So if you see, if we look at $25,000, it comes to what? It comes to 18 lakhs, 19 lakhs, right? I think it's a very, very attractive number for a founder to, even somebody, let's say if I was in a corporate job, but I really believe in a space, but my opportunity cost is very high. This is a very motivational aspect where I get compensated for leaving my opportunity cost to some extent, right? And take the
Mhm.
plunge, or to give your fullest to this. So that is how I look at it. I have always felt that any investment which a company gets 20 lakhs, around 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, is pretty decent to try and evaluate multiple things for the initial 5 6 months at least, right, before you decide.
Yeah, and I think if you're bootstrapping it, it's a nice little cushion, right? I mean, you can actually double up in testing your hypothesis, and given that this is for idea stage companies, and that's a huge plus as well.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly, yeah.
so we'll have to see how this pans out, and this is in the consumer internet space, so this is obviously going to be very, very interesting as our economy grows to a 5 trillion in the next 5 years. I think this becomes rather interesting to look at.
See,
um,
another thing, it's been struggling to take off beyond a certain level, and of course I think the pandemic helped a lot in
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And such initiatives is also going to help this a lot.
for sure, for sure, for sure. Great, guys. As we look to wrap up today, right? First, by the way, if you guys are just joining us on either Twitter or YouTube, Um, happy to take any questions, any suggestions, any comments on any of the topics that you think relevant from the past 1 week or so. We were just discussing about Flipkart Leap. It's a new accelerated program that Flipkart has announced this week. Um, Great, Vinod. Let me just put you on spot, right? Any interesting investments that caught your eyes in the past 1 week?
I was actually planning all three of us should talk about one. You just put me on the spot.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Uh, uh, I'm just trying to. I was actually trying to prepare for that question myself.
yeah.
Uh, this. So one thing that caught me, I would say, I mean, I think I'm just doing this because the last minute. One was the Sequoia's doing advance, right? Uh,
Ah,
Large and
that's my company. How dare you?
strangely right in the edtech space again, and Sequoia has already done Leap, as you might know. Uh, don't know the details of it, but it's interesting. Sequoia's put out a full thesis on their thinking on why educational loans is going to be the next big phase. It's interesting to look. I think that was of some note to me. I bookmarked links. I'll have to go back and pick up on reading about some of those companies. And that's been the company, if you ask me. But this is for the next week discussion. There's been a lot of action on rolling funds, left, right, and center.
Yes.
Both India and Valley. Maybe that's for the next week we should talk about, and how it's potentially possible, right? But that's advanced for me for this week. Yeah.
Great.
Have you managed to Google or find which company?
Hey, you don't ask such questions when we are live.
So, Bhargavi, while you're thinking about it, it's not a funding story just yet. I don't think the funding has been announced, but I've been following the story surrounding Unacademy, right? So these guys are likely to raise a largish round at $1.2 billion valuation. So we have a new unicorn on its way, and I think SoftBank is considered to be the lead on that round. So that is interesting, and this is very interesting because they just raised, right, only a few months ago, if I'm not mistaken, some 4 months ago at
Yeah.
$500 million valuation. So talk about markup.
Right, you need one company. I was talking earlier with Paris, right? We need one company in the portfolio. If all other companies have consolidated or acquired or shut down in any VC portfolio, we just need one Unacademy, to take it further. Anyway,
Exactly.
criteria of the power law. So I'm not surprised. And, good, we can speculate also on this.
True. But also, it's smart from the founder's point of view, right? You never say no to funding. If the funding is coming in, just take it, right? And that's the right move for the business, no matter what. And I think
They have learned from the masters in the industry.
Right. With that said,
Bhargavi, what's the company? I'm sure I know you
Hey,
would have.
no, you guys are all talking Series A, B. I know one very interesting company getting funded by great investors in the education tech space, which got closed last week. So I think I think the public at large will get to know probably in a month's time. So
yes.
I am personally very excited about that company.
Awesome.
Yeah, and a little birdie told me that it's not just one company. There are 3 other companies also that this new fund is investing in.
Yeah, I heard that right. Yeah, Karthik.
Great. I think hopefully the news will be out soon. We will be able to disclose more information about those companies and many other companies that we were looking at. At the beginning of the show, we discussed about the number of startups that we looked at in the past 3 months as we hit our 100-day milestone. We are actually, honestly speaking, we're struggling to get back to all the inbound deals that we are getting. At Java, we make it a point to respond to every email that hits our inbox. We may not be able to give detailed feedback on every company, but the least that we could do is whether or not we will take something forward. If not a week, if not 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, or at least a month, we will definitely get back to you guys. With that said, I think this is a wrap for us now. Thanks again for joining us. Stay tuned every Friday, same time, 6 o'clock. It's a freewheeling conversation. You can jump in and participate in the conversation. We are live on YouTube and also on Periscope on Twitter. Hopefully, if LinkedIn works something out with us, we'll be live on LinkedIn as well. Can't wait to.
I think if anybody wants,
live on.
Yeah, Karthik. Just last thoughts. If anybody wants to reach us out, hello@javacapital.co, or you can tweet us at Java Capital, or DM me or Karthik. We are available to take a look at the companies. Yeah. Good weekend. Thanks, Karthik.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye bye. See you next week.
Bye bye.